There we
Hi,
go.
everybody. Um, I hope that you're not getting any feedback. As you can see, I am currently sitting in my car. You know why? Because I'm at work. You know why? Because where I live in Huron County is currently under about 10 feet of snow, which is fucking ridiculous. So I'm here in my car taking my hour-long break now to be with all of you monster fuckers. Just saying. Uh, so yes, I plus side, I'm in the new car, so I have a seat warmer. So by the end of the talk, my ass will be lovely and warm, but not the rest of me. And I wasn't going to miss Kanji ever, period, regardless of what happened with the weather. So, that was never going to be an issue. Just want to make that perfectly fucking clear. Clearly, as with the heroes that fucking suck and villains that deserve better panel from last year, this is obviously very objective. And I've done lots of research and I've made sure that this went through all of the appropriate channels to be vetted. So I'm not taking criticisms. I'm also not in charge of what you do with your time. I'm just going to make some recommendations. Anyways, as per usual, we have a lot to cover. Um, so, so this is the monsters I'd like to fuck. Oh, no, you're not going to do the thing. Yes, you are. Except because we can't say MILFs apparently online, it's monsters I'd like to be friends with. This is not for children. This is 18 plus. I can't check your IDs. This is an honor system. If you're under 18, I don't want to fucking hear it, and don't tell your friends. Cool? Cool. Great. Yeah, this is what we're going to do. Also, I'm trying to watch the chat as I do this. So, the very first thing we're going to do as a social worker is we're going to talk about the psychology of why we want to be monster fuckers. I don't know. It's a thing. There's a lot of reasons for this. Why? I mean, we could talk about, in a great follow-up to Caitlin's panel, the capitalist society and the fact that, if everything feels monstrous, then maybe the monsters are better than the humans. Seems like a pretty easy reason to want to fuck monsters. There's some other reasons. We'll get into those. But what is the basis or the context for that? I mean, it seems a little disassociative that the small, squishy human has now gone to the point existentially where we think that dragon cock is going to be more comfy and better for us emotionally and psychologically than a human, which, biologically we should prefer, but we don't. Also, in this panel, we are not talking about human monsters. We're not talking about serial killers. We're not talking about other garbage people. That's a whole other thing. And as a social worker, I can't tell you to get therapy, but if you are idolizing serial killers, you might want to think about why, because that probably isn't going to be something that is that's going to stand you in good stead over time in public. We like to joke about it, and some people have these really weird fantasies of serial killers, but it's not actually a good thing. It's really antisocial. Also, there's a really thin line in monster fucking and some really maladaptive coping mechanisms that we like to play skip rope with. So, check yourselves. Yeah, all I can say here is take care of yourself. We're going to be talking about a lot of horny shit, but if something triggers you or something comes up, or if I say something that is triggering, do feel free to reach out to me in the Discord. I will do my best to check it, but I am working this entire weekend. But also, just make sure that when you're going after those really awesome kinks that we will be talking about tomorrow night in the form of monster fucking, that you're also quite aware there's probably a deep psychological reason why you think that's a good idea, right? Which is my own theory of why we enjoy monster fucking. So whose fault is it? Why do we like fucking monsters? I'm going to go straight back to Zeus. Zeus is the number one fucking problem about why we like fucking monsters. You know why? Because he fucked anything in any shape, in any form. And he also, it is always Zeus, 110%. But also because he fucked anything in any form, we ended up with a lot of other things that were quite fuckable in any form. So, Zeus is a big problem with that. Also, I know this isn't true, but I would just like to point out this picture here with the Greek guys that are all looking really gnarly with the snake. That is a snake wrapped around them, but I'm going to guess that has some deep psychological roots to why we all like hentai, because that snake is sexy looking and it shouldn't be, and we should regret that. but it's a thing. Little Red Riding Hood is also probably one of the reasons why we are predisposed to really enjoy furries. That and Prince Adam from Beauty and the Beast. Also, Hans my Hedgehog. Mythology, folk tales, fairy tales. I also have up here the Foxwife. They are global. We have this whole thing. This isn't new. This isn't like this is new human psychology. We've always had this thing about fucking the unknown, which again says a lot about where our monkey brains are at, but it is a problem. Or is it? That's the real question in this panel. So what do we see? What are the characteristics that we find desirable, and what does that say about how much we all need therapy? You know, what does love have to do with it? If we can't find it in humans, then we need to find it in the inhuman. And what does that mean? That means that if we don't think we're going to get what we need and what we want from other humans, that we got to go to the monster. I can hear you. Oh, no? Okay, well, I can hear Lindsay in my head like a fucking psychotic trip, so we're going to keep going. So, so what happens is that, you know, we go looking for the things we can't explain to make us feel better about ourselves. And we go looking for the things we can't control to hopefully create that sense of security, the sense that somebody else is in charge. You know, if we can't fuck God and we can't fuck the devil, the next best thing is the cryptid level of what we don't understand but can fuck. Just saying. Also, clowns are monsters, but again, that falls under the garbage human monster. They're not monsters. I don't count it in here because that's still a human thing. And also, yeah, no, we're not doing that. We're not here to talk about that level of weird fuckery stuff. That's a whole other problem. So we're going to categorize this. What is a monster? What is not a monster? And what could we probably make a reasonable case for being a monster? We got the classics. We got the vampire, the zombie, the swamp things, Frankenstein's monster. I didn't want to take up too much space. I know Frankenstein is a garbage human. His monster, not. His monster is a bunch of garbage humans all sewn together. The werewolves, angels and demons, shapeshifters, selkies, most of Zeus's children, Loki's children, sea hybrids, the devil, death, all of these wonderful, intangible concepts of things that should probably terrify us. And instead we go, I'm going to fuck that hard, or I want to be railed by that. It's true. Things that maybe aren't monsters, but we could make a case for: aliens, mutants from X-Men. I mean, this is getting really touchy on politics, but you know, these are things that people will try and categorize as monsters or as monstrous. Anything in a Chuck Tingle book, anything from the Magnus archives, also probably robots. I think robots in a lot of cases fall under the monster category. They're just monsters we happen to make. Yeah. So then, not a monster. Okay, this is really important, okay? So, things that are not monsters. Fae or the fair folk. You know why they're not monsters? Because I want to continue to live a happy life and not be cursed for the rest of existence by the fair folk. So the fair folk are not monsters. They are wonderful humans and wonderful neighbors. Dangerous people. Again, garbage human category. They do not count as monsters at all. People with a traumatic past. Not a monster. They have a traumatic past. Garbage humans in general, not monsters. Someone that has a knot. This is really important for smut readers. That doesn't make you a monster. That just makes that a Tuesday night kink. Also, tentacles that happen out of nowhere. They're not a monster. What are they attached to? That's the monster. The tentacles are just like biological sex toys. We don't know where they came from. We don't know what's happening there, but they're there. Then they have some autonomy, which is weird. But maybe that's more at like the amoebic level. I don't know. Don't know. Okay, where are we at here? Whoops, go back. Oh, no, wait. It's subjective. That's important. Sorry, I needed to go back and make sure I had this. So it's subjective. Everything I am telling you here is how I am categorizing monsters. I did say that my word is the honest to fuck truth. And I mean fuck literally in this case. However, it is subjective. How I categorize a monster may not be how you categorize a monster. That's fine. We don't have to agree on it. But like I said, I am going to make some recommendations about what you should and should not allow to fuck you / what you should and should not fuck. Just throwing out some options in the future here. Fae be monsters dependent on the series. Okay, listen, this is kind of important. The Fae can act in ways that humans see as monstrous. they in and of themselves have never actually been classified as monsters in the same category as what we would put other things, like what I notified up there as vampires, zombies, swamp things, werewolves, angels and demons even. Like the Fae are this sort of nebulous round where they are magical and their actions are not what we would want for ourselves, but they're not really monsters in the way that we classically think of monsters. So, okay, here are the different categories that I came up with of how to do the monster mash. The first one is daddy issues, naturally. If you're going to go after something deep and dark in the, like, out in the world, I'm just going to go out on a limb here and say you're looking for somebody to hold you down and take you to Pound Town. Or you want to hold something big and powerful down and go to Pound Town. Again, that's daddy issues. And that's a hot as fuck kink, which we can talk about tomorrow. But again, check why. Why do you think you need that? Or why do you want that? It's important. FOMO, fear of missing out. Somebody else fucks something really weird and cool? Great. Means maybe I want to try it out too. I don't know. Maybe. Got to try it at least once. But yeah. Pet play. Pet play is one of those skipping rope places where, you find something big and scary and non-human and you're like, damn, I want to put a leash on that, or vice versa. I want it to put a leash on me. All of that is great. All of that is wonderful. Just make sure you don't fall down the slippery slope into taking the agency away from the monster. This is important. When we are talking about monster fucking, we are not talking about removing the agency of the thing that we are trying to fuck. We want to believe that there is some choice in there. We want to do this for some level of emotional fucking as well as physical fucking. There's usually a reason why we think that monster is going to fulfill a need. So the pet play is real, but yes, we like consent, and that is really fucking important in every possible aspect of those combinations of words. On the other hand, if you're like me, then you're going to fuck him out of spite. You're going to look at that giant monster cock that may or may not be ribbed for her pleasure or his pleasure or their pleasure, and you're going to say, I'm going to sit on that. Fantastic. That is great. If you're going to do it out of spite, I hope to God you have an incredible amount of lube with you. Fine. Disassociation. You don't want to be human anymore. You don't want to hang out with the humans anymore. You are so disassociated from the human existence that you have decided that it's probably better to be with the monsters in the first place. Great. Go for it. Then there's because why not? It's not quite like FOMO. I'm not afraid of missing out, but why not fuck a monster? I don't know. Is it safe, sane, and consensual? May as well try it. You have the self-preservation of a fruit fly. One of my absolute favorite tropes on AO3 is when you get into it and it's somebody going, I don't know, I'm going to climb that monster like a tree and it is going to be godly. Fantastic. Power to you. Probably shouldn't, but you're gonna. Is a fruit fly monster? No, they're just annoying as fuck, but good try. Then, on top of you got to try it at least once, maybe you got to try it twice to be sure. You may as well, just to see what happens. So enough of the bullshit. Y'all know why we're really here. Isn't it cute? It's real cute. It's gonna get cuter. So this is the Venn diagram of how I tried to get the monsters sorted. So there are monsters that look hot and are hot. There are monsters that do not look hot and are not hot. There are monsters that are not hot, but strangely yes. And then we have the other categories of in between looks hot and is hot and does not look hot and is not hot. We have does not look hot, but is hot, ... Does not look hot, is not hot, but strangely yes. We have the fear factor hot. We're not sure why exactly we think it's hot, but it's terrifying, but also really attractive. It's fine. You can talk to your therapist about that. Is not hot, but strangely yes, and looks hot, is looks hot, is not hot. This is an unfortunate but true combination. And in the middle, we have I don't know. I don't have a good answer for you. Actually, I tried to come up with some like snappy, funny little Venn diagram, but I couldn't because in the middle, we're just not really sure why. I feel like that's where most of the Magnus archives falls into, which is fine. So Looks hot is hot. Now, people would probably argue, say, oh, only the monsters that are pretty are going to be here. I disagree. I disagree greatly, because a lot of it actually has to do with charisma, personality, physical attributes, which may or may not be attractive to individuals. Yeah, other things like that. So we have Mystique up here. Mystique, incredibly fucking attractive in her natural state, true. However, she is a shapeshifter. She can choose to be whatever the fuck she wants to be and look however the fuck she wants to look. And that in and of itself is really attractive. But I also think, like, you know, she could make herself look however she wants. And we assume her blue form is the form she wants, like, is her natural state. That's what we've been told anyways, canonically. What if it's not? What if that's just how she wants to look? All of that is really fucking cool. Is mayonnaise a monster? Mayonnaise isn't a monster. The fuck, mayonnaise. The Hulk. The Hulk is really hot. And I don't mean this just because it is Mark Ruffalo. I mean, the Hulk is incredibly fucking attractive. Do you see the butt on this guy? Like, damn, that is a tight ass. I would do unspeakable things, or let the Hulk possibly do unspeakable things to me if it were biologically possible. Who knows? Could be, might not be. Maul. Maul is fucking hot. And I would hold on to those horns and ride him like a goddamn motorcycle if I had the chance, because he is fucking attractive. Just saying. Angel. Angel is not hot. Angel also, I would argue, is not a monster. He's just a sad boy looking for his sad boy time. He's not a monster. Yeah, just throwing that out there. And then we have, also, you'll have to forgive me, I forget her name right now, and I don't have the ability to look her up. But the robot from Ex Machina, I believe is the movie name. She is absolutely a monster. She is a stone cold killer. She is manipulative. She is fucking scary. I would argue she is absolutely a monster. However, I love that she walks around for most of the movie and you can see her bioorganic like network. I think she's phenomenal. I think she is so fucking interesting and cool. These are all okay. Listen, I know they're all humanoids. I said at the very beginning that this is subjective, and we are getting there, because I would also argue Abe Sapien is not a humanoid. He has a human form, but he is a fucking gilled fish, and he needs breathers to breathe above ground. And he's a step above shape of water, which we will get to. I would say Abe Sapien is not a humanoid. We code him as humanoid because he is bipedal and he can talk and he can read, but he's actually a fucking fish. So just saying, not technically, like, yeah, we are predisposed to code bipedal, eye forward, hand things as humanoid, which is why Diogenes gets away with the whole the plucked chicken is a man thing. It's not, but that's how we think. Hellboy, really fucking hot. Ron Perlman is hot in or out of latex, but Hellboy specifically in the first movie is a real big douche hammer, and I actually don't love him in that movie. But in the second movie, The Golden Army, Hellboy is hot. Hellboy is so freaking cool in that movie, and I like it. Also, Beast from the 2000s X-Men movies. Mwah. Yeah, that whatever kind of genitalia he's packing down there, because we don't technically know, but like I would like to know. I would like to figure out what's going on. And yeah, we could talk about it. Also, I put up this picture of Ginger Snaps because I didn't want the full wolf version of Ginger Snaps. So I couldn't find the one where she's more and more and more and more and more wolfy. And like, that's the pretty version of Ginger Snaps. I actually like it when she's a couple steps closer to wolf. She is hot and she is terrifying, but I do enjoy that. Actually, I think you see it better too in the Ginger Snaps 1800s movie where like, yeah, anyway, she's like a wolf, but she's wearing the dress. I really like her transformation into a werewolf. I think she's great. Yeah, Ginger Snaps is one of my favorite movies, bar none. Okay. So, looks hot is not hot. Again, this is getting into the psychology of it. So, looks hot is not hot. Dracula from the BBC miniseries, but Dracula in general is not hot. He has some really major fucked up problems. Also, I didn't put the Gary Oldman version in here because that's like a whole character study in and of itself. They look hot on the outside. but in reality, they are not hot as like something you should want to fuck, because there's consent issues with all of these things. And also, lady big tits mommy goth vampire chick whose name I can't say, she is a caste system loving noble, and she's a piece of shit. I don't like her at all. Also, this is the creature from Shape of Water. Not hot because I'm not actually sure he can consent at all, because I'm not sure when like we can actually say whether or not he is consenting. It's a great movie. It brings up a lot of problems for me in that he is so different. Again, this is where we think something bipedal is coded as human. He is so vastly different from humans. I'm not sure we can say for sure whether or not he actually could like consent to the idea of human sex. We think he does by the end of it. It sounds like it's a love story, but Guillermo del Toro is clever and sneaky, and you know, he kind of leaves you feeling uneasy forever. Pyramid Head obviously looks hot, jacked as shit. Not sure that you would actually be able to engage in some form of sexy behavior with him without just dying. So probably not hot in the long run. And centaurs. Centaurs are not hot. I know everybody's got this idea that centaurs should be hot. You know why centaurs aren't hot? Because the sex swing and the crane you would need to make that happen are only part of the problem. Proportionately, unless you go and find the Shetland pony version of a centaur, this is not going to end well for you at all, ever, period. That is going to just, that's gonna murder you from the junk up and possibly straight out your throat. It's not going to end well. Your intestines are going to be ruptured. That's not hot. Nobody actually wants that. You think you want that psychologically, but you really don't want that. Okay. Does not look hot is hot. Okay. Again, I am saying this is my version of how we code things here. So when I had the aliens under, you could make a good, a good case for them being monsters. Really, I was thinking about Kit Fisto, because the things that I would like to try out with those tentacles, let me tell you, I'm glad you want that, the butt 64. You want that psychologically. You're not going to want that in the long run. Anyways, yeah, so Kit Fisto, he gets coded as a sexy Jedi, which I also really love in like all the fan fiction. He's just like this harem boy. It's great. But, I just like to try some stuff out. You never know. Could be entertaining. We are going to then hop over to the Tim Curry version of the devil. Tim Curry is objectively incredibly attractive. Tim Curry as the devil, the Lord of Darkness, seems like he should be attractive. But he's not. He does not look that hot. You're like, oh, he's ripped, or he has this and he has these big horns. Objectively, those things should be hot. But he's got this greasy look to him, and I feel like if you like tried to fuck, you'd end up slipping off and just like taking off into the wild blue yonder because of friction in physics. I'm not sure that it would actually work. But also, there's just something about the moistness of his skin really bothers me. And to me, that turns off any other factor that we're looking at here. I can't. And also not kink shaming. Yeah, not kink shaming, not trying to kink shame, trying to be like physically aware that there are limitations to the human body. We will talk about this more in the kink panel tomorrow night. There's lots of things to go over with these ideas about like the thin line that we play skip rope with between reality and fantasy, which is where we are right now in the fantasy realm. So we will stay there. So the Beast. We are going to talk about the Beast in terms of him in his beastly form and not him in his white boy form, because Prince Adam is fine, whatever. But the Beast is probably one of the first romance movies most millennials saw, where it wasn't just Fox Robin Hood, which also hot objectively, but the Beast, I was like, I didn't think how weird it was to think of him as like a potential romance partner, which he kind of was. Like, I'm not gonna lie about it, I found him incredibly attractive all through my life. I'm not gonna say it stopped, because he is. I still, he's kind of a douche nugget, but like still hot. I would ride that any day of the week. Also, the teeth could be really exciting. Teeth are going to go under the kink panel as well, but the teeth could be really exciting for a lot of fun activities, just saying. Moving over beside the beast, we have Medusa, a stylized version of Medusa. You know, some people have Medusa having legs, some people have her not having legs. I like the version that doesn't have legs. I think there's a lot of sexy potential going on there with that snake tail, just saying. The upper body, give or take, the snake hair, also vastly interesting. I think there's a lot of cool shit that we could be doing with that. In the bottom, we have the Minotaur. Minotaur, lots of exciting things going on there. This is going to be skipping a thin line here. Has anybody ever actually seen a cow in real life? Because if you've seen a cow, you know how long their tongues are. And all I'm saying is that if I could get legitimate consent for that Minotaur, that tongue is going to be an A++ addition to any sexy times we have. And then we have Dragonkin. You could say from D&D. You could say from what's the other one? Oh, from in World of Warcraft. I think they have Dragonkin. Other things. I mean, like, yes, they are bipedal, but nothing about them looks particularly human. And yet, here we are. Also in World of Warcraft, they have the four-legged version of the Dragonkin. Not really sure how that works. But again, incredibly attractive. We have Lilith on here. Lilith can take whatever form she wants. She's got mommy energy, but she's also got a lot of self-awareness, which is attractive. But also she's got some very interesting abilities to grow, shrink, do different things, maybe have different limbs, bit of a shapeshifter thing going on there. That is also very attractive, just saying, and different because she's not limited to human form. She can take multiple different forms. It's all very fascinating. A long time, but it feels like a wet foot. Accurate. Very, very accurate. The Ghoul from Fallout 76. He's one of my favorites. Objectively, that little quirky half smile is something that I will always fall for. But also, he is a massive piece of crap. We haven't really seen too much of his body. We know parts of it falls off. We know, like, he's got some other things going on. He's pretty close to zombie-ish, but very lucid, very aware. Obviously, he's got his own versions of trauma and stuff going on. I would just like to say that I didn't start playing Fallout 76 until after I saw the TV show, and it made me look at all the characters very differently and broadly redefined how I was considering what the undead looked like. Or is he undead? Or is he just a ghoul? It's all very academic, I'm sure. And then last, but certainly not least, Goliath, who is somehow magically able to keep everything, whatever he has, tucked behind that loincloth. And I would just like to say I have wanted to explore that and Demona. Didn't find a picture of Demona. It was running out of space. But the gargoyles, damn. What a time to have an awakening of sexuality when 80% of what was on TV was non-human but humanoid coded. Wow. That was certainly a time to discover that you liked a lot of different things. And then in the future, look back on that and realize that redefined your entire idea of what sexuality could and could not be. And that you were predisposed to being a monster fucker from the age of 11. Just saying. Does not look hot, is not hot. Again, subjective. We're not going with the pretty mermaids here. We're going with like the deep sea, gonna fuck you up anglerfish version of mermaids. Still something really attractive and interesting about them. We're getting into the less and less humanoid coded, or at least like the passable difference into more abstract things that, like, sure, they might be bipedal, but they're not human. And they are very obviously at a level of unhuman where, like, maybe the body is getting involved in that, like, this might not be biologically impossible to smash genitals the way you want to. Science and technology or magic is a wonderful thing. We'll just leave that. So yeah, so we got the OG version of the mermaids here that are not fun. If you have seen Jim Henson's The Storyteller, this is Hans from Hans My Hedgehog. Buddies. Let me tell you, I didn't think it was possible to be attracted to a fucking hedgehog, especially not one that should have been terrifying. If you've ever watched that show, I watched it when I was maybe 7 or 8. At the time wasn't thinking about it as attractive, went back and watched it in like high school and was like, oh, here we are. Chewy. If I could have somebody big and furry that is ginormous cuddle me and roar at me in a loving way, I absolutely would. I absolutely would. And then we have the abstract idea of death. A lot of people want to fuck death or be fucked by death. I think that's fascinating. I think that could also be a whole panel in and of itself. Multiple versions of death, multiple ways that death looks, but it's that idea of death being tangible enough for us to have some sort of intimate relationship with. I do believe that is also truly fascinating and not something I would pass up on. I would most certainly engage with that. Killer croc. Reptiles do not have the same kind of genitals as human. We don't know what killer croc has in their pants. But I will say that like the multiple versions of killer croc, I always think it's fascinating because he's so much more gentle because he looks like a crocodile. People have assumed that he's this big murderous creature. And then I was like, oh, but you're actually really nice. And like, well, not really, but like kinda, I don't know. I'd give him a chance. All I'm saying, maybe you got to try it once or twice before you know for sure. Robots. I threw the Transformers up in here because for some reason, not maybe for some reason, I don't know, like one, Optimus Prime's voice is fucking sexy as shit from all of the cartoons. But they also make Bumblebee like attractive and they made Optimus Prime attractive. And you know what? We're moving into the future. There's all kinds of opportunities out there. I don't think that robots are coded as monsters, but they often get coded as monsters, or they're seen as monstrous, or because they're so alien to an organic life form. I think we should give them a chance. Just saying. Do I think that that a robot like needs to be hot functionally? No. Would I fuck R2-D2? Also no, because R2-D2 is a little shit box, and that is a really no, I wouldn't do it. I would put him in the trash compactor all by himself, first and foremost. But I will say that Bumblebee, I don't know, he might be attractive. Who knows? And Sully from Monsters, Inc. Mostly because he's, again, we're just going to go with the fur coat syndrome. I just really, the idea of a big furry thing cuddling me and then being loving and gentle and wonderful and having a good time just seems really great. Maybe the hairballs won't be worth it. I think we'd have to figure that one out. But I do think that it would be really awesome to see what that experience could be like. We don't know. And then what? The reason this is what is because we need to stop and think about what are the side effects of this, and also just from a purely safety point of view, how do we make this work scientifically? I'm not saying you can't or that you shouldn't try. I'm saying take the time to do your research and make sure that this isn't going to end in sadness. You want this to be fun. You want this to be a good time, right? Yes, the Titans from Attack on Titan, accurate. But you know, just be careful. Make sure that you're being safe. I want everybody to have a safe and fun, sexy time experience. That is very important to me. Okay, so now that we have gone through all of these, because I realized last year I didn't have the chance to talk about as much as I wanted to talk about because I spent all my time going through the images. What we are going to do is we are going to backtrack, and we're going to go back here specifically to this, and actually up one. I didn't maybe organize these the best. So when we are talking about monsters and the cryptids and all of the things that we want to fuck, and I said, you know, this is sort of a psychological thing. I think the important thing to remember here is that all of this is hypothetical and in the realm of fantasy. And I appreciate Terry pointing this out in the chat and also calling attention to it, because I think that this is not about people feeling weird. This is all hypothetical. This is all fantasy. What I am saying is, should you, and we will talk about this again tomorrow on the kink panel, but should you get the chance to explore your kinks and to explore your opportunities to do monster fucking, all that I ask of anybody that is engaging in any sexual fun or play or non-sexual fun or play or things, even just being friends with, just make sure that you're safe, sane, and consensual, more or less, you know, to the best of what you are able to pull together here. Because I think there is a lot of joy in the idea of monster fucking or monsters being friends with. Also, I had to take off the hat because now it is very hot in my car, which is great. But you just have to take the time to consider that there is a lot of promise in the fact that we are not stuck to this idea that we have to stay within the human context. I certainly don't feel the need to limit myself to the idea of what I am attracted to as being human. In fact, I would argue that the most enjoyable part about this is the unexpected, not the Spanish Inquisition, but when you don't quite know, there's a lot of thrill in not knowing, right? Or in having that compersion of cultures meeting and understanding each other, and to address the politics in the room, but not to ignore them. Is that, like, the history of monsters is fraught. We talked about that in the horror panel last year as well. There's a lot of coding and othering and using monsters allegorically. I have tried to avoid that in this panel because that is not the point of this panel. The point of this panel is to address things that we like to fantasize about. And what we like to fantasize about, clearly what I like to fantasize about, are big furry people things that are going to be really loving and gentle. I'm just going to say that's probably the Disney coded version. I mean, I didn't include things in here like the Skeksis from the Dark Crystal, because I cannot imagine a world in which I would want to fuck something like that. But some of you may want to, and I appreciate that. And I think you should explore that to the best of your abilities. I also think that there are lots of chances for you to stop and engage with an abstract idea that you might want to be like, this could be something really interesting. Like, it might sound a little delusional to people, but like the idea of fucking space. Oh, one thing I did not get to put on here because I was worried I would run out of time. If you want some really good, great, even queer literature, open literature on any of this, go to Iron Comics. I think I will look it up and put it in the chat later, because Iron Comics does fundraising. They do like My Monster Girlfriend, My Monster Boyfriend. They do all kinds of different versions of what would normally be seen as taboo literature on sex and sexuality. And I just think they are fantastic. They are so good, absolutely worth spending your money on. But especially the two collections on My Monster Girlfriend, My Monster Boyfriend, everything about them is phenomenal. They are queer inclusive, trans friendly, open, beautiful, wonderful. Iron Circus. Yes. Thank you. Whoever just said that in the chat, A++. It is Iron Circus. They're great. Go and look them up. They have fantastic literature and you will love all of that. You will also notice that I didn't include on this list gods and goddesses specifically, except for Zeus, because Zeus is often the source of our troubles. But in general, the reason why I didn't include gods and goddesses specifically is because they are directly related to human projections of ourselves. Angels and demons can be abstract, non-representative as humanoid, but like the Greek gods, the Roman gods, well, not all of them, but some of the Egyptian gods, I probably could have included more Egyptian gods. They could have been, those were very easy to pattern yourself onto, and their actions, again, like the Fae, are monstrous, but they themselves are not necessarily seen as monsters. So there are, like I said, there are lots of things, like when you get into the Magnus Archives, there are things about the Magnus Archives that I found really compelling and really interesting, and things that I'd be like, I'd probably bang that if I had the chance. And you're like, oh, but I shouldn't. Like, I should be not enjoying the idea of that as much as I am. But I definitely enjoyed a lot of those ideas, especially like the all of the different sort of for me, it's really the abstraction of these ideas when they get somehow embodied. To me, that's a really fascinating thing. And I wanted to go back to and remind people that the reason we're not talking about garbage humans is because garbage humans are the reason why we are looking for the monsters in the first place to fuck. So we're not including the garbage humans in this. The other thing, too, that I want to say is this is a very short list of reasons to do the Monster Mash. This is the Angela version of the list to do the Monster Mash. This is not the end of the list by any stretch of the imagination, nor is it all-encompassing. I firmly believe that I would do most of the monsters that I have identified here today out of spite. Yeah, and daddy issues, but mostly spite. And because I have the self-preservation of a fruit fly. Those are my 3 reasons for doing this. I will also have you note here, too, that I did not include things that get into our kink panel for tomorrow night, which I'm going to keep referencing because you should all come to that because it's about queer, LGBTQIA positive, and we're going to be talking a lot about consent. We're going to be talking a lot about the psychology behind kink. All of this is a lead up. I do not do things in vacuums. Actually, I do. Different way of saying that is that I don't do anything in isolation. Maybe that's how I should have said that instead of the vacuum thing. Just saying. Also, point of interest. If you are looking for good monster fuckery, there are so many options on the internet that are safe, sane, and consensual to explore and do safely and do wonderfully and do well. And they are great. You should look them up. Some of them are on places like Love Honey, but you can find other places. You can even find people on Etsy that make them, which is really cool. Lots of individual sites. Just make sure that you are aware of the care of those products and how you can use them to get the best out of your fantasies and explore all the things that make you go, right? Yeah, try that. Include neurodivergent people. Oh, I mean, does it include neurodivergent people as in like I am neurodivergent as fuck and I am one of the panelists tomorrow? Or as in like we talk about neurodivergence specifically in kink? Because I think the neurodivergence specifically in kink honestly should be presented. Yes, we will address it, but it will not be like centered in the entire panel because we're talking about kink in general. Yeah, we'll talk about it a bit, but it's not going to be like the central factor of the panel. Okay. Also, I would like to say too, when we were initially starting this, and Terry rightfully pointed out that most of these are humanoids. Again, this is because we code things that are humanoid as hotter than things that are not humanoid. So this is an objective scale of the westernized version of how we see beauty and how we see the beauty standards of what we code as a monster. I went down the scale of objectively what people should probably think is the hotter version of something, down to the things that we should find less and less pleasing as we go along. Yeah, so that is why, and then there's the possibly physically impossible, but try it, just be safe, sane, and consensual. But the idea is that we would move through things that are less and less likely to appear to be sexualized to us as we move along. Now, again, I am not the authority on this. There are things that make me go and tingly that probably do not appeal to anybody else. That is fine. That is not the point of this panel. If it doesn't fit, don't try. Well, except Dave, you can do it if it doesn't fit. You just got to be careful, and you got to understand that the human asshole only stretches to 7 inches around. So you can shove something 7 inches wide up your butt, but you better be prepared to stretch the fuck out of your butt. You can do it. You just got to make sure you do the math, and you do the math well. And you do the math well in terms of the amount of lube you need and the amount of sizing and the amount of stretching you're going to need to make that work. And if you rush, then Dave has to deal with it, and then Dave will be sad. Except if you're out of county, then Dave does not have to deal with it. So then Dave doesn't have to worry about it. So you should try it. But again, be safe, sane, and consensual. And yes, I know nobody does the math because people think they can rush. You cannot rush the butt stuff. You cannot rush the butt stuff. You should never try and rush the butt stuff. You shouldn't try and rush the vagina stuff either, but you definitely should not rush the butt stuff. Vagina is a little more elastic. You have to convince the butt to be elastic. You have to take your time to sweet talk the butt to be elastic. If you like it rough and you like it painful and you like different variations of that is great, but make sure you know your aftercare really fucking well. And I'm not joking about the fucking part, because if you don't know your aftercare and there are rips and tears and things that could get infected, that is not going to end well for you. Yes, bad at math equals hospital, but bad at math also means maybe having to explain things you're not ready to explain, or like engage in conversations you do not want to have. It is always beneficial to be able, yes, slow and slippery, like a snail, or an eel, or a monster tongue, potentially. But yeah, the point is, you can try things to the limit of your body. I'm just saying, as a human, as a squishy human, you need to be you need to make sure that you are tempering your desire with what you can physically sustain. What is in our heads as a fantasy level is fan-fucking-tastic, and that can get your rocks off, or your inner rocks off, faster than anything else. Is what's going on in between your head. Whatever you're imagining, that is going to get you there. What your body can handle physically right now in this moment is a totally different thing, and all I'm asking is that people are careful. I'm so tired of looking at you. Oh. That's why he's here. Badge 502. It's not because you can't, it's because people rush it. We don't want you to rush it. And I know this is a bit early, but I do have to return to work. So I'm sorry for cutting this a little bit short. We will convene again tomorrow for the kink panel. I will be here. Just wanted to say it's been a pleasure talking to you all about monster fucking. Y'all need Jesus. That Jesus specifically is what I'm saying, you know, because Jesus is also kind of a monster, and he'd probably love the monster fucking. So y'all are beautiful. It's been a real slice, and I hope to see you all tomorrow. Bye.